My name is Elena Carter, and at 34 years old, I never imagined I'd inherit $9.8 million from my estranged uncle. I was driving home, eager to tell my husband Daniel, when everything changed. A blinding crash. Screeching metal. Darkness. I woke up in a hospital bed, my body shattered and my spirit barely hanging on. But worse than the pain was this: Daniel never came. Not the first day. Not the second. Not even the third. When I finally reached him on the phone, his words cut deeper than my broken ribs. And today, as I lay here in this hospital room, watching him walk in with his new wife, I never expected her to look at me and scream those words. Backhand index pointing right. If you're watching this right now, hit like, tap subscribe, and tell me where in the world you're watching from, because the story I'm about to share will shake you to the core. My name is Elena Carter, and at 34 years old, I thought I had life figured out, or at least, I thought I knew what my future would look like. I was wrong. What happened to me changed everything I thought I knew about love, family, and betrayal. It all started with a phone call. The phone rang while I was sipping lukewarm coffee at my desk, staring at a half-finished advertising proposal. Work had been slow, the kind of slow that makes your thoughts wander into places you try to avoid, like wondering how long your marriage can survive when money is tight and dreams have started to sour. Miss Carter? This is Benjamin Lawson, attorney for the estate of Richard Carter. My heart skipped. Uncle Richard. My father's estranged older brother. I hadn't heard his name in years. Yes, this is Elena, I answered cautiously. Is something wrong? I'd like you to come to my office today if possible, Benjamin said, his voice calm, professional. It concerns your uncle's estate. For a moment, I almost laughed. Uncle Richard? He barely knew me. What estate? A keepsake? A dusty book from his endless library? But something in Benjamin's tone made me agree. 2 hours later, I sat in a wood-paneled office across from the man himself, a briefcase open on the desk between us. Your uncle spoke highly of you in his final months, Benjamin began, sliding a thick folder toward me. He made it clear that you were the person he trusted most. Confused, I opened the folder and scanned the will. Then I stopped breathing. Everything. Uncle Richard had left me everything. His house. His real estate holdings. His accounts. His fortune. The total estate was valued at $9.8 million. I stared at Benjamin, certain this was some mistake. This can't be right. I barely knew him. Benjamin shook his head. He revised his will shortly before passing. He wanted you to know he admired how you built your life without leaning on others. He called you a survivor. My chest tightened as I reached for the handwritten letter tucked into the file. Dear Elena. If you're reading this, then I'm gone. I've watched you from a distance, proud of the way you've lived your life with courage and independence. You remind me of myself at your age, but stronger. This inheritance is not a gift, it's a tool. Use it wisely. And remember, true wealth is not measured in dollars. With love. Your Uncle Richard. I didn't realize I was crying until Benjamin quietly slid a box of tissues across the desk. Driving home later that day, the world looked different. The winter sunlight seemed sharper, the air colder, the traffic heavier. But inside, I felt weightless. For the first time in years, I could breathe. Daniel and I had been drowning financially for so long. His career as an artist never took off the way he hoped, and my job at an ad agency barely covered rent, bills, and the endless cost of new supplies he insisted on buying for his work. But now? Now everything was going to change. I stopped at a jewelry store on the way home. The display cases glittered with pieces I could never have dreamed of buying before. I chose a sleek, expensive watch for Daniel. It wasn't just jewelry, it was a symbol. A new start. A reminder that our struggles were finally over. As I handed over my card, I couldn't stop smiling. I called Daniel on the drive home. Hey, it's me, I said, my voice trembling with excitement. I'm coming home early. I have big news. He sounded distracted. Annoyed, even. I'm kind of in the middle of something. New project. Very experimental. Just, be ready, I told him, forcing cheer into my voice. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Fine, he said flatly. Don't expect much reaction. I'm in my creative zone. The line went dead. For a moment, the thrill of my inheritance dulled. But I pushed the thought away. Once he heard, he'd understand. He'd be happy. We'd finally get our fresh start. I turned up the radio, letting an upbeat song carry me into daydreams of our new future. A house. Travel. A studio where Daniel could paint without worrying about bills. Maybe even, a family. I imagined Daniel's face lighting up when I placed the watch in his hand and told him we were free. I was so lost in that vision that I almost didn't see the danger. It happened in seconds. Rain had begun to drizzle, slicking the road. A semi-truck 2 lanes over swerved, tires screeching against the wet pavement. The trailer jackknifed, swinging across the lanes like a pendulum of steel and death. I jerked the wheel hard, tires shrieking, hard in my throat. But it was too late. The impact was thunder. My car spun violently, glass exploding, metal screaming. The airbag punched into my face, blinding me. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the velvet watch box fly open. The gleaming timepiece slid across the dashboard in slow motion, almost mocking me. And then, darkness. When I opened my eyes, I was drowning in pain. A steady beeping kept me tethered to reality. The air reeked of antiseptic. My chest felt like it had been crushed beneath a mountain. I tried to move. Agony ripped through me. Easy there, a soft voice said. A nurse leaned over me, her badge reading Sophia Reyes, RN. You're safe. You're in St. Mary's Hospital. You've been unconscious for nearly 2 days. 2 days? My voice was raw, broken. Where's my husband? Daniel? Sophia hesitated, just for a second, before answering too quickly. We called the emergency number on your phone. Left messages. He hasn't come in yet, but I'm sure he will. Her tone told me otherwise. My chest tightened, and not from the broken ribs. Daniel always said art was about finding beauty in chaos. But as I lay there, barely alive, I realized something chilling. The chaos had found me first. When I woke again, the world felt heavy. My body was a prison of pain. Every breath scraped against broken ribs, every shift sent lightning down my leg. But the worst pain came from the empty chair beside my bed. Daniel still hadn't come. Day 2 turned into day 3. I kept waiting for him, for his voice, his hand in mine, the kind of comfort only a husband should bring. Instead, it was Nurse Sophia who checked my who brought me water, who gently adjusted the pillows so the pain wasn't unbearable. Still, I asked the same question every time she entered. Has he called? Has Daniel been here? Her eyes would flicker, kind but cautious. Not yet, Elena. But maybe today. I wanted to believe her. On the 4th day, I couldn't take it anymore. My phone had survived the crash, cracked but functional. With trembling hands, I dialed Daniel. He answered after 3 rings, his voice sharp and impatient. What? My chest tightened. Daniel, it's me. I'm in the hospital. I've been here since the accident. Why haven't you? A pause. I heard music and laughter in the background. Not the sound of someone grieving, or even worried. His reply was ice. Look, Elena, I'm in the middle of something. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Harder than? Daniel, I almost died. I can't walk. I don't have time for a loser, he snapped. Some of us are moving forward with our lives. Then the line went dead. I stared at the phone in my hand until it slipped from my fingers and clattered to the floor. Loser. That's what my husband thought of me. Sophia found me sobbing an hour later, my chest heaving so hard it set off alarms on the monitor. She called for something to calm me, but even sedatives couldn't dull the ache in my chest. When I drifted into sleep, his words replayed in my mind like poison. I don't have time for a loser. The next morning, Dr. Foster, my attending physician, came in with charts. You're lucky to be alive, he said. 3 broken ribs, a compound fracture in your right leg, a severe concussion. It'll be months before you're walking again, but you will recover. Lucky, I repeated bitterly. He gave me a measured look. I've seen people not walk away from less. Don't waste your second chance. I wanted to laugh in his face. What second chance? My body was broken, my husband had abandoned me, and the life I thought I was walking into, a life of stability, security, happiness, had been ripped away on the highway. By day 7, I couldn't eat. My body was healing, but my spirit was collapsing. Sophia sat with me on her break, stirring a pudding cup she knew I wouldn't touch. He still hasn't come? I shook my head. He doesn't care. I called him, and you know what he said? My voice cracked. He called me a loser. Her face softened, but her eyes flashed with anger. Then he doesn't deserve you. Tears blurred my vision. We've been married 7 years. I supported him when he couldn't sell a single painting. I worked nights so he could chase his dream. And when I need him most, he walks away? Sophia reached across the tray, squeezing my hand. Some people only stay for the good times, Elena. But storms show you who really loves you. Her words were kind, but they couldn't stop the hollow ache spreading inside me. On day 8, I got a text. Heard about accident. Really busy with breakthrough project. We'll visit when things calm down. That was it. No, are you okay? No, I love you. Just a casual, dismissive line like I was an inconvenience. I showed Sophia. She frowned. That doesn't sound like a husband worried about his wife. That sounds like someone hiding something. Her words lingered long after she left the room. The hospital psychologist, Dr. Jessica Lane, was sent in the next day. Petite, sharp-eyed, she wasted no time. You're not just recovering from an accident, Elena. You're dealing with emotional trauma, betrayal, abandonment, loss. That's a dangerous combination if you don't talk about it. Loss? I asked bitterly. He's not dead. Maybe not physically, she said carefully. But the person you thought he was? That man isn't here anymore. And grieving that is just as real. I stared at her, the truth cutting deeper than any scalpel. She was right. My Daniel, the passionate artist I had fallen in love with, was gone. In his place was someone I barely recognized. Still, a question gnawed at me. Did he know? Did Daniel somehow know about the inheritance? The timing was too sharp, too cruel. On the day I was supposed to tell him about the $9.8 million, I ended up in the hospital, and he acted like my life had no value at all. I hadn't told a soul, not even Sophia or Jessica. The secret of my inheritance felt heavy in my chest, as though Uncle Richard's money was cursed. If Daniel knew, then maybe his coldness wasn't just neglect. Maybe it was greed. The thought festered until day 10, when my best friend Rachel finally visited. She stood awkwardly in the doorway, clutching a bouquet of flowers. Her eyes darted everywhere but at me. You look rough, she blurted, then grimaced. Sorry. Why did it take you so long to come? I interrupted. She sat down, wringing her hands. I didn't know what to say. Everything's so messed up. My pulse quickened. Rachel. Tell me what's going on. Her lips trembled. Finally, she whispered, he's with someone else, Elena. The room tilted. What do you mean, with someone else? He's my husband. She squeezed her eyes shut. Daniel's been telling people you didn't survive the accident. He even had a little memorial at your apartment last week. And now, he's with a woman named Vanessa. They've been inseparable. Some people say they already got married. The heart monitor beside me spiked, beeping wildly. Sophia rushed in, but the words had already detonated inside me. Dead. He told people I was dead. And then he replaced me. Rachel pulled out her phone with trembling fingers. Do you want to see her? My body screamed no, but my heart demanded yes. She showed me a photo. There was Daniel, champagne in hand, his arm wrapped around a slim brunette. She was stylish, confident, and hauntingly familiar. Her features echoed mine, not exact, but similar enough to make the resemblance unsettling. That's Vanessa, Rachel whispered. She works at a gallery downtown. They met months ago, apparently. My stomach lurched. Months ago, while I was visiting my dying uncle. While I was holding Richard's frail hand, Daniel was building a new life with her. I barely heard Rachel's apology as Sophia guided her out of the room. My world had collapsed into a single thought. My husband declared me dead. And now he was parading a younger version of me around like his perfect new life. That night, staring at the hospital ceiling, I made a vow. If Daniel wanted me erased, if he thought he could steal my life, my name, and maybe even my inheritance, he was wrong. I wasn't dead. And I was going to prove it. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Daniel's arm around her. That smug little smile. That glass of champagne, raised like a toast to my death. Vanessa. Even her name tasted bitter on my tongue. By the time morning sunlight streamed through the blinds, something inside me had hardened. The grief was still there, the betrayal too, but they were now fuel, fire burning under my skin. I wasn't going to let Daniel win. Sophia noticed the shift immediately. You're different today, she said while checking my phone. I made a decision, I whispered. Her brows lifted. And what's that? That I'm not a victim anymore. If Daniel wants to bury me, then fine. But he's going to regret underestimating me. Sophia gave a slow smile, half proud, half worried. Good. But don't let revenge eat you alive. I didn't answer. Because I already knew, revenge wasn't just an option. It was survival. Still, questions gnawed at me. Who was Vanessa? How long had she been in Daniel's life? And worst of all, did she know he had a wife still breathing in this hospital bed? Rachel returned that afternoon, guilt shadowing her face. I shouldn't have told you, she said. You need rest, not stress. No, Rachel, I said firmly. I needed the truth. And now I need more. She hesitated. More? I need you to find out everything you can about Vanessa. Where she lives. What she does. Who she really is. Rachel bit her lip. Elena, you're still healing. What if this obsession? Please, I cut her off, my voice breaking. You're the only one I can trust. Her shoulders slumped. All right. I'll dig. But promise me you won't do anything reckless. I didn't make that promise. That night, I turned on the small hospital TV and flipped through channels, hoping for distraction. Instead, I froze. There he was. Daniel. It was a news segment covering a charity gala. He was standing beside Vanessa, smiling like a man who'd never known sorrow. The reporter introduced him as Daniel Harris, a rising star in the art world, accompanied by his fiancée, Vanessa Cole. Fiancée. The word sliced me open. 7 years of marriage, erased. Replaced by a woman who had stepped into my shoes before my body had even healed. The next day, Rachel returned, eyes wide with what she'd uncovered. You're not going to like this, she said, sitting heavily beside me. Just tell me. Vanessa, she's not just some gallery girl. She comes from money. Old money. Her family owns several galleries across the state. She's basically a golden ticket in the art world. My breath hitched. It made sense. Daniel hadn't just replaced me, he had upgraded, at least in his eyes. Rachel leaned closer. And Elena, she's been bragging that Daniel's next collection is going to make millions. She says he's finally getting the recognition he deserves. Millions. The word echoed in my mind, slamming against another number I'd tried to bury, 9.8 million. Uncle Richard's inheritance. No. It couldn't be coincidence. Rachel, I whispered, what if Daniel knows? About the inheritance? She blinked. But how? You told me you never mentioned it to him. I didn't, I said, voice tight. But maybe he found the documents. Or maybe Vanessa's family has connections. Maybe they know something we don't. Rachel looked sick. Elena, you think he tried to kill you? The thought had been festering in the back of my mind, but hearing it out loud made me shiver. The accident. The perfectly timed brake failure. Daniel's cold dismissal after. Had it all been orchestrated? I needed answers. So, with Rachel's help, I started digging. She brought me Vanessa's social media. Photos of lavish brunches, champagne toasts, vacations to Paris and Milan. Daniel was in nearly every picture now, smiling, kissing her cheek, looking like the perfect fiancé. But one photo stood out. Vanessa holding a glass of wine, her caption smug. When one door closes, another opens. Cheers to new beginnings. The date? The very night of my accident. My blood ran cold. 2 days later, Rachel smuggled in a tablet so I could do my own research. My hands shook as I typed Vanessa Cole Gallery into the search bar. The headlines were a punch to the gut. Daniel Harris finds new muse, Vanessa Cole. Artist's wife tragically killed in car crash, fiancé inspires his latest collection. Love and art, Daniel Harris's triumphant return. Wife tragically killed. They really thought I was gone. And Daniel wasn't correcting them. One night, alone in the hospital room, I whispered into the dark. Why, Daniel? Why wasn't I enough? The silence answered back. But then another voice crept into my mind, sharper, stronger. You are enough. He just never was. By the time Dr. Foster cleared me for physical therapy, my mind was no longer clouded with grief. It was sharpened to a point. Every painful step on the parallel bars, every agonizing bend of my leg, it wasn't just healing. It was preparation. Sophia noticed, of course. You're pushing harder than most patients, she said. What's driving you, Elena? Revenge, I admitted softly. She studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Then make sure it's worth it. A week later, Rachel returned with more intel. She looked nervous, almost guilty. I followed Vanessa, she confessed. You what? I had to know. And Elena, she went to see a lawyer. I overheard enough to know she's helping Daniel file paperwork to access something. My stomach twisted. The inheritance. Rachel nodded. I think so. But how could he? Because, I interrupted, realization dawning like a storm, if I'm legally declared dead, my estate, Uncle Richard's money, goes straight to my husband. To Daniel. Rachel's eyes widened in horror. Elena, they're stealing your life. No. They weren't just stealing my life. They were trying to erase me entirely. That night, alone in the hospital, I stared at the ceiling until my vision blurred. Daniel and Vanessa thought I was weak. Broken. Buried. But they were wrong. Every breath I took, every step I forced through the pain, was a step closer to reclaiming what was mine. Closer to exposing them. Closer to making them pay. The plan was still forming, but one thing was certain. Vanessa might think she'd won. She might think she was the new Mrs. Harris, the shiny prize on Daniel's arm. But she didn't know the truth. The real Mrs. Harris was alive. And I was coming back for everything. The first time I tried walking unassisted, I nearly collapsed. My legs trembled, the floor tilted, and I had to grab the rail before my knees gave out. But instead of despair, I felt fire. Every stumble, every moment of pain, it wasn't weakness. It was proof. Proof that I was still here. And the thought that kept me upright, again and again, was a single, furious truth. Daniel and Vanessa thought I was dead. And they wanted me that way. Rachel's visits became my lifeline. Each time she came, she brought more information, more pieces of the puzzle that showed just how deep Daniel's betrayal ran. This time, she brought papers. Legal documents she'd managed to photograph when Vanessa left them unattended at a cafe. She slid them onto my hospital tray. "You're not going to like this." I scanned the first page. My blood turned to ice. Declaration of death. Filed under Elena Harris. "Rachel," my voice cracked. This is a petition to have me declared legally dead." Rachel's lips pressed together. "And once it goes through, all your assets, including Uncle Richard's inheritance, go straight to Daniel." I gripped the papers so tightly they crumpled. "He's not even waiting. He's already burying me alive." Memories of Uncle Richard flooded back. His deep laugh. His eccentric ways. The day he pulled me aside after the funeral and handed me that envelope, whispering, "It's for you, Elena. Not Daniel. Remember that." Inside was a letter, and documents for a trust fund worth nearly $10 million. Money Richard had made from decades of shrewd investments. He had seen something in me. Trusted me to carry his legacy. And now Daniel was trying to steal it. That night, I barely slept. Rage and grief churned until they became something else, clarity. I needed a plan. The next morning, I asked Rachel to bring me something unusual, a lawyer. She frowned. "Elena, are you sure? If word gets out you're alive." "That's exactly what I want," I said coldly. "But on my terms." Enter Mr. Bennett. He was an older man with sharp eyes behind thin glasses, the kind of lawyer who seemed to know everyone's secrets before you opened your mouth. He sat across from me in the hospital room, steepling his fingers. "Rachel tells me you're in a delicate situation." "That's one word for it," I muttered. "My husband is trying to steal my inheritance by declaring me dead. I need to stop him." Bennett studied me carefully. "Do you want justice, Mrs. Harris? Or revenge?" The question startled me. "Is there a difference?" I asked. His lips curved slightly. "Legally, yes. But I suspect you want both." I didn't deny it. Bennett explained the situation in brutal clarity. If Daniel's petition succeeded, he would control my estate. The inheritance. Everything. But if I revealed myself too soon, Daniel could spin the story, paint me as unstable, and still find a way to keep the money. "The key," Bennett said, "is evidence. You need proof of intent. Proof that he knew you were alive, or worse, that he wanted you gone. Proof." The word lodged in my chest like a stone. Rachel leaned forward. "So what do we do?" Bennett's eyes flicked between us. "We set a trap." Over the next few days, I pretended to rest, but my mind was racing. Rachel brought me Vanessa's public social posts, and Bennett used his contacts to quietly monitor Daniel's moves. The picture became clearer. Daniel had scheduled a private showing at Vanessa's family gallery. An event where he planned to unveil his masterpiece collection, works inspired by his so-called tragic loss of a wife. And the date? 2 weeks from now. I almost laughed at the irony. He was going to profit off my death, while I was still breathing. But then Rachel brought me something else. Something that made my blood run cold. A recording. She'd managed to get close enough to Vanessa at a cafe to overhear a phone call. She slid her phone across the table. Listen. I pressed play. Vanessa's voice, clear and sharp. Of course the petition will go through. The doctors already signed off. Soon enough, Elena Harris will be nothing more than a footnote. And then Daniel and I can finally have the life, and the fortune, we deserve. The life. The fortune. I slammed the phone down, my chest heaving. There it was. Proof. But proof wasn't enough for me anymore. I didn't just want to stop Daniel. I wanted to destroy him. And that meant patience. Every painful therapy session became a rehearsal. Every step, every strained movement, I imagined walking into that gallery. Into their world. Alive. Sophia noticed the change. You're healing faster than expected, she said. What's your secret? I almost smiled. Revenge is one hell of a painkiller. The day of the private showing arrived faster than I expected. I wasn't ready, not physically, not fully, but my heart was. Rachel helped me prepare, bringing me clothes that didn't scream hospital patient. A black dress, simple but striking. Dark lipstick. A scarf to hide the fading scar on my neck. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. Not the broken woman Daniel had discarded. But someone new. Someone stronger. At the gallery, the lights glowed warm, the champagne glasses clinked, and Daniel basked in the adoration of wealthy patrons. Vanessa stood beside him, radiant in gold silk, her hand on his arm like she owned him. I stood in the shadows at the back, heart hammering. Then Daniel unveiled his collection. Canvas after canvas, painted in somber tones, portraits of a woman drowning, burning, fading into dust. The audience gasped at the raw emotion. Daniel smiled humbly, playing the grieving widower. And then I heard his words. These works are my tribute. To my beloved wife, Elena. Taken from me too soon. My hands curled into fists. Beloved wife? The liar. The murderer. I wanted to step forward then, to rip off the mask and watch the world recoil. But I didn't. Not yet. Because I saw something else. At the side of the stage, tucked into Vanessa's designer clutch, was a folder. Rachel whispered, "That's it. The declaration papers." If I revealed myself now, Daniel could claim shock, confusion. But if I had the signed papers, the proof of his betrayal, he wouldn't escape. Rachel squeezed my hand. Are you ready? I nodded. It was time. Time to stop being the ghost in Daniel's story. Time to reclaim my name. Time to make them pay. My hands were trembling. Not from weakness, though my body still carried the scars of survival, but from the storm raging inside me. Daniel was there. Vanessa too. The stage was set. And this time I wasn't the victim. I was the reckoning. Rachel leaned close, whispering, "The papers. We need those papers." My eyes locked on Vanessa's golden clutch. That folder inside it was the nail in their coffin. The declaration of death. My death. I straightened my scarf, adjusted my steps, and walked forward through the crowd. My heels clicked against the marble floor, steady and deliberate. Every head turned. At first, they didn't recognize me. To them, I was just another guest, dark dress, red lips, calm presence. But Daniel froze. His confident smile faltered, his wine glass slipping just enough for a drop of red to stain his cuff. Vanessa followed his gaze. And when her eyes met mine, all color drained from her face. "Elena," she whispered. Gasps rippled through the audience. "Elena Harris? But, she's dead." "No, look, it's her." Cameras flashed. Whispers turned to shouts. And I kept walking, slow and deliberate, like a ghost who had come back to claim what was hers. Daniel's voice cracked the silence. This is insane. You're mistaken. My wife is gone. I stopped just a few feet away, tilting my head. My voice was calm. Too calm. Do I look gone to you, Daniel? The room erupted. Phones were out now, recording every second. Vanessa's hand gripped her clutch, knuckles white. And that's when Rachel moved. Like a shadow, she slipped forward, bumping into Vanessa with calculated clumsiness. Oh. I'm so sorry. The clutch spilled open. Paper scattered across the marble floor. And there it was. The declaration of death. I bent down slowly, my fingers brushing the page. Then I held it up high, so everyone could see. This, I said, my voice carrying across the gallery, is proof. Proof that my husband and his mistress wanted me erased. Not just from his life, but from existence. Daniel lunged forward. That's a lie. She's unstable, she's not well. But his words drowned under the sound of gasps and murmurs. Because Rachel had already handed the recording to Mr. Bennett, who stood near the crowd. And seconds later, Vanessa's own voice filled the gallery speakers. Of course the petition will go through. Soon enough, Elena Harris will be nothing more than a footnote. And then Daniel and I can finally have the life, and the fortune, we deserve. Silence. Thick, suffocating silence. Vanessa's face crumbled. Daniel's jaw locked. The crowd was no longer in awe of his tragic paintings. They were staring at a con man. A liar. And I was done pretending. I stepped closer, my voice sharp as a blade. You left me to die, Daniel. You and Vanessa both. While I fought for every breath, you planned to cash in my life like a lottery ticket. Daniel tried to laugh, but it came out hollow. This is absurd. Elena, you're confused, you're sick. I ripped the scarf from my neck, revealing the scar, the brutal evidence of my survival. The room gasped again. Does this look like confusion to you? I hissed. Every camera caught it. Every shocked face bore witness. Vanessa finally snapped, her voice sharp and venomous. Fine. Yes, we wanted you gone. You think Daniel ever loved you? You were just, in the way. A dead weight he had to drag. He belongs with me. Always has. Her confession echoed, ugly and raw. And Daniel, desperate, cornered, grabbed her arm. Shut up, Vanessa. But it was too late. Because the police, already tipped off by Bennett, were stepping into the gallery. The officers moved fast, collecting the papers, the recording, every shred of evidence. Daniel's face twisted from charm to panic. You can't do this, I'm Daniel Harris. These people are lying. But no one believed him anymore. The handcuffs clicked. Vanessa screamed, clawing at the officers, her golden dress crumpling as she was dragged out. And Daniel, he looked at me one last time. Hatred. Fear. And something else. Recognition. That I had won. When the gallery doors closed behind them, the room erupted into chaotic chatter. But I didn't hear it. All I felt was silence. The kind of silence that comes after a storm. Rachel slipped her arm through mine, steadying me. You did it, she whispered. But I shook my head. No. We did it. Days later, the world knew the truth. The media devoured the story, wife declared dead returns, exposes husband's affair and fraud. Daniel and Vanessa faced charges of fraud, attempted inheritance theft, and conspiracy. And Uncle Richard's fortune? Safe. But money didn't matter to me anymore. What mattered was that I wasn't a ghost in someone else's story. I had written my own ending. On my last day at the hospital, Sophia hugged me tightly. You taught me something, she said softly. Healing isn't just about the body. Sometimes, it's about reclaiming your life. I smiled, tears stinging my eyes. And sometimes, it's about burning down the lies. Rachel drove me home. The city lights blurred past the window, but my mind was clear. For the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about what Daniel had taken. I was thinking about what I had survived. And what I was finally free to build. A life on my terms. As we pulled up to my apartment, Rachel asked, "So, what now?" I looked out at the quiet street, the fresh air filling my lungs. And I smiled. "Now?" I said. "Now, I live."